Welcome everyone. I'm excited to kick off our presentation today with episode 23. This is our very first slide, so I want to warmly welcome you all and thank you for being here. Today, we'll be exploring some interesting insights together. The main focus is on our episode theme, and we'll also touch on some key points that will help deepen our understanding. So let's get started and enjoy the journey ahead. So let's take a moment to think about what actually happens when Nurse Donna administers albumin intravenously. One of the key effects we observe is the shift of body fluids. Now, this process is essential to understand because it impacts how fluids move between different compartments in the body. The question here is, this shift occurs during which process? Is it osmosis, diffusion, active transport, or filtration? Osmosis is the movement of water across a semi-permeable membrane from an area of lower solute concentration to higher solute concentration. This is a common mechanism in many fluid balance processes, especially in the body. Diffusion, on the other hand, involves particles moving from an area of higher concentration to lower concentration until evenly distributed. Active transport requires energy to move molecules against their concentration gradient, which is more specific to certain substances and processes. Filtration involves the movement of fluid and solutes across membranes, usually driven by pressure differences. In this case, the key point is that when albumin is administered, it increases the plasma oncotic pressure, meaning it pulls water into the vascular space. This pulling of water from the interstitial and intracellular compartments is primarily driven by osmosis. So, the most accurate answer here is osmosis, because it explains how fluid shifts from outside the blood vessels into the bloodstream in response to the increased osmotic gradient created by the albumin. Understanding this helps us see how IV fluids like albumin can effectively restore circulating volume and maintain proper fluid balance in our patients. Let's take a closer look at osmosis. Osmosis is a fundamental process in biology, and it involves the movement of water molecules. Specifically, water moves from an area where there's a higher concentration of water to an area with a lower concentration. This movement happens across a semi-permeable membrane, which allows only certain molecules to pass through. The key point to remember is that osmosis aims to balance concentrations on both sides of the membrane. It plays a crucial role in many biological functions, like maintaining cell turgor and regulating fluid balance in organisms. Understanding osmosis helps us grasp how cells interact with their environment and how vital processes like nutrient absorption and waste removal work seamlessly. So, in the broader context of our presentation, recognizing how osmosis operates underscores the importance of cellular processes in sustaining life. It's a simple but powerful example of how passive movement of molecules can have significant effects on living organisms. Albumin is a colloid that stays within the intravascular space, meaning it remains in the blood vessels. Its main role here is to increase the plasma oncotic pressure, which is the force that pulls water into the bloodstream. This is really important because it helps maintain proper blood volume and pressure. When albumin increases this pressure, it causes fluid to move from the interstitial space, the space between cells, back into the bloodstream. This movement occurs across a semi-permeable membrane, which selectively allows certain substances to pass through. Now, this entire process, where water moves due to differences in solute concentration, is called osmosis. Osmosis is fundamental in regulating fluid balance in the body. So, in the context of our overall discussion, understanding how albumin influences fluid shifts helps us grasp how the body maintains proper volume and pressure, especially in clinical situations like hypoalbuminemia or fluid therapy. All right, let's break down some of the key mechanisms involved in fluid and solute movement. First, diffusion is the process where solutes move from an area of higher concentration to an area of lower concentration. It's important to remember that diffusion involves the movement of solutes themselves, not the fluid. This is a common point of confusion because sometimes people think fluid shifts are involved, but in this case, it's just the solutes that are diffusing. Next, active transport requires energy, specifically ATP, to move substances against their concentration gradient. This process is essential for maintaining specific concentrations inside and outside cells, especially for ions like sodium and potassium. Then we have filtration, which is driven by hydrostatic pressure. Think of it as a sort of pushing force, like blood pressure pushing fluid through a membrane. It's not influenced by oncotic pressure, which is the pressure exerted by proteins in the blood that pulls water into the bloodstream. Now, why are the other mechanisms incorrect in this context? Because fluid shifts caused by oncotic pressure relate to the movement of water, not solutes or active transport. So, understanding these distinctions helps clarify how different processes contribute to fluid and solute regulation in the body. So, let's talk about how intravenous albumin works in terms of fluid movement. When you administer albumin, it causes a fluid shift by osmosis. Essentially, the albumin creates a higher concentration of osmotic pressure within the blood vessels. This means water from the surrounding tissues or interstitial space moves into the bloodstream. This process is crucial because it helps restore circulating blood volume, especially in cases of hypovolemia or edema. The key point here is that albumin draws fluid into the vascular compartment, which can improve blood pressure and tissue perfusion. Understanding this mechanism ties into the overall theme of how we manage fluid balance and maintain hemodynamic stability in our patients. So, in summary, IV albumin acts like a magnet for water, pulling it into the blood vessels through osmotic forces.